As a true Dominican, I really think we could make it. But as a people, we have to learn to commit. Journey ahead will never be smooth and sweet. But as an ambitious nation, we have to be upbeat. I know we have done it before, so we can do it again. All the pain we've endured, but pride we have to maintain in order to create a better world. Every living soul has to play their role. We have an opportunity to change things around, an opportunity to change things, an opportunity to make Dominica strong. We have an opportunity to change things around, an opportunity to change things, an opportunity to make Dominica strong. We got to stamp out the devil, stamp out all evil, jealousy, not by me, certainly. We got to stamp out greediness, stamp out wickedness, jealousy, not by me, certainly. Tomorrow is the first day. The rest of our lives, let's make tomorrow the first day of the rest of our life. We have an opportunity to change things around, an opportunity to change things, an opportunity to make our country strong. Whoa. Change. Whoa. I remember the love and unity that we once shared. Starting from the home, the children would be prepared. Goodness was a daily part of our living. This society would be part of our children upbringing. We used to eat everything we grow and grow everything we eat. But smiling faces would glow and our people were real discreet. We need to go back to where we were. Otherwise we'll witness things we never seen before. We have an opportunity to change things around, an opportunity to change things, an opportunity to make Dominica strong. We have an opportunity to change things around, an opportunity to change things, an opportunity to make Dominica strong. We got to stamp out the ugly, stamp out cruelty, jealousy, not by we, certainly. We got to fight hypocrisy, conspiracy, jealousy, not by we, certainly. Tomorrow is the first day of the rest of our lives. Let's make tomorrow the first day of the rest of our lives. We have an opportunity to change things around, an opportunity to change things, an opportunity to make our country strong.
All right. Yes, that is where I want to say a special greetings and welcome to all of you locked into that space at this time. It is 5 minutes past the hour of 6 o'clock in Dominica and our region. That is where we live in the Caribbean region. Those of you listening and viewing further afield, a special good evening to you, no matter what time of day you are listening and viewing us at this time. Always a pleasure to have you guys on board with us. This is Civic Vibes. The program that you're about to listen to is called Civic Vibes. This program is aired each and every Sunday from 6 o'clock right here on social media. We are streaming this program on Facebook, also on YouTube, and also on Twitter. Yes, indeed. And again, we want to welcome you to yet another very interesting program for June 23rd. Yes, 2024. Indeed, that is the date. We will be having our co-host of the program, that is Mr. Alvin Thomas, joining us sometime a little later. So you can expect Alvin Thomas to join us sometime a little later. He's running late on something here this afternoon. But nonetheless, we are here. Very, very interesting discussion to come. And so, yes, we ask you to make yourself very, very comfortable at this time. We have three gentlemen here, three esteemed gentlemen, I must say, in the name of Dr. Thompson Fontaine. He is the, as we speak, the political leader of the United Workers' Party in Dominica. Also, we have Mr. Johnson Boston and Mr. Kent Vital. They are here in the capacity this afternoon. These guys wear many hats at different times, but they're here in the capacity as members of the Electoral Reform Coalition movement in Dominica. And so, yes, a very stimulating 2-hour discussion is coming up here. And so we ask you guys to just keep it locked to the sport that you got in this time. Just so that I give you a snapshot as to where we go with this conversation this afternoon, we're about to ask Dr. Thompson Fontaine primarily, but these two other gentlemen, as to their thoughts in terms of the recap of the much talked about economic summit that we just had June 4th to June 6th earlier up this month. We heard about it, you saw it, and yes, very, very, very good review so far. So we're going to do a recap, as it were, and sort of spearhead that discussion into where we want to go as it pertains to that thing that has long eluded us for some time: free, fair, and transparent general elections in Dominica. We'll be asking the views and, of course, perspectives of Brother Bosso and also Brother Kent Vital, indeed. Yes. So, gentlemen, without much ado, without much more delay, let me move across and say hi and welcome to, first and foremost, Dr. Thompson Fontaine. Good evening to you, my brother. How are you?
A very good evening to you, Lofty, and of course to my co-panelists tonight, Bosso and Kent, and your co-host, and of course to your many, many listeners scattered across the globe tonight. It's my pleasure to be with you.
Yes, indeed. Doc, thank you very much indeed. Lovely, lovely background indeed. No matter where you're at, you have Dominica with you.
Thank you. Thank you. Lovely Dominica.
Indeed, indeed. Very picturesque in the background. This mountainous view. That's what area, Doc, we're looking at.
This is an area on the coast between Soufriere and Scotts Head, in that area there.
Okay.
That's it, that mountain range there, yeah.
Yeah, very, very beautiful.
I think I took it from the ferry on the way to Martinique. Yeah.
Wow, wow. Very good, very beautiful. Says a lot about our country, Dominica.
Oh, absolutely. Wonderfully beautiful. True. Yes, indeed.
Yeah, man. All right, Mr. Johnson Boston. Some people call you the statesman of Dominica. How are you, sir?
Well, lovely and fine. And let me say good evening to you, to your co-host, who is not here there with you, but will be there, said shortly. And of course, to my fellow panelists, in the persons of Dr. Thompson Fontaine and Mr. Ken Vital. And of course, to your listeners here in Dominica and over the world. So I'm very pleased to be here with you tonight. And I guess what we'll talk about will interest Dominicans at home and Dominicans abroad, and of course our friends abroad as well. So thank you for inviting me. I'm glad to be part of this discussion this evening.
All right, indeed. Bosso, thank you very much as well for making your presence felt here this evening. I know once you are there, persons will get some much needed information. Let us now move across to Mr. Ken Vital. He worked at the CDB for some time, an economist. And so, Kent, good evening to you, and a very special my brother.
Yes, good evening, Lofty, and Bosso and Thompson. Always nice to be on a platform with you gentlemen. Yeah, so today is just a lovely day, a hard-working day for me. Normally I go to church, but today I couldn't go to church. I had to finish some stuff. So I had to stay online doing some work. But I'm not religious. I am godly, and it's good to go and give God the worship. But, sometimes a few things just keep us, at the time from always being there every moment. But thank God for our country, and I trust God, and I am very much at peace because I know God is going to intervene on the behalf of those who love Him. And so I walk in His authority. I serve Him, and I'm not going to let a few, well, maybe it's more than a few, but those people with evil hearts that want to ruin our country, I'm not going to allow them to do that. And we must not allow them to do that, because we must all stand. We must all stand and ensure that our country goes where it can go. And I'm going to play my part, and I'm sure The others here are determined to play their part, Bosso and Thompson, and the others in Dominica. If we join forces, if we have a strong heart, we trust in God, and we do and use our energies that you have given us to do right by our nation, it will be done. Yep.
Indeed, indeed. It will be done. All right, Kent, Vital, thank you very much, my brother, for your opening remarks here. Very much interesting remarks indeed. Thank you. All right, folks, those of you maybe just tuning in at this time, thank you very much for your eyes and ears. This is Civic Vibes program. We air this program each and every Sunday from 6 o'clock. The many of you here already, good evening to you. Please share that live information as we are moving on here. Just to recap, for those of you who tune in late, we're going to discuss, sort of recap, do a synopsis as to the much talked about Economic Revival Summit for Dominica that was held 3 days earlier this year. That is from June 4th to 6th at the Jungle Bay Resort. We have the man here, Thompson Fontaine, who basically spearheaded that effort with his United Workers Party's team, and also Mr. Boston, Ken Vital, and a number of other persons played their part in pulling off that much important summit indeed. So we're going to hear from these esteemed gentlemen as to just how they pulled it off indeed. And yes, the second leg of the conversation, when we are finished with the economic summit, it will sure provide us with a platform as to where we go from there in terms of, you know, having the people now, a people action-oriented task force, as it were, to deal with the much talked about free, fair, and transparent situation for elections in Dominica. Yes? So folks, that is the conversation we're about to have. We also would beseech your calls, your comments, your suggestions when we open up those lines sometime later in the program. So it is 6:15 at this hour now. Let me just now move across to Dr. Fontaine and have him give his, you know, sort of opening remarks as it pertains to just how the summit indeed went.
Yes, Lofty, thank you very much for the opportunity. You know, I personally was amazed at you know, how it went, and I'm not surprised, but was really happy and you know, because on the first night, for example, we had a very, what persons refer to as a classy event, but I think it captured the imagination of the Dominican public in the sense that, you know, people could look at it. We had, as I said, we now know we had over 50,000 persons. We believe that this has to be the record for the most watched show coming out of Dominica. I believe we got even more persons than during Creole Fest or during Carnival. And so in that sense, it was a huge success. The honorees, we were able to honor 10 outstanding Dominicans in various areas. These are persons who some Dominicans may not have heard about, but who are doing their own thing and who are working in a way that they can promote Dominica. They're creating jobs, and they have, importantly, they have businesses that is what we call scalable, that can grow, and it is mainly spearheaded by young people. So it was a chance to showcase and to honor those Dominicans with that. And, you know, it's something that really captured them. And a lot of the honorees, that was the first time they were being recognized, they were being honored. So that was something good, because what it also did for us is that it gave us a glimpse of what can be. I think in those honorees, we saw the potential that this country possesses. And it was a great way to set the stage for what was to come later. And in terms of the actual summit, we were able to look at areas that we believe can really benefit Dominica. It was not just a question of talking, but we had constructive conversations around job creation, around sectors of the economy that can really grow and do well. And one of the criticisms that we had, a number of persons were asking, why do it now? Why not wait until, you know, you guys are in government to do something like that? But I thought that the fact that we had such a successful viewership and participation tells me that persons were looking forward to something like that. Dominicans are hungry for a change of direction in this country. They're looking to leaders who can offer them a way forward, away from what we now have, because what we have in this country is a failed government, a failed economy. And so they're looking for something different. And I think we're able to offer them a glimpse of that, a glimpse of what is possible if we bring our hearts and our minds together and we plan and we strategize. So in that sense, it was hugely successful. But one of the things that really struck me was the fact that the amount of fear that exists in Dominica, the number of persons who did not want to be identified publicly with what we were doing for fear of reprisals, for fear of retaliation. And that to me is extremely sad, and is one thing I did not realize how deep-rooted the fear was in Dominica. But people are afraid. And it's very unfortunate because even some of our presenters, some persons that we asked to present initially, they basically backed out because of that fear. And I mean, I've not put anybody on the spot, but it tells me the kind of fear that we have in Dominica. Even when you plan something that is neutral, that is not necessarily political, neutral in the sense that the economy is everybody's business, the economy concerns us all. When it is doing well, we all benefit. When it is doing bad, as it is doing now, it is doing really, really poorly, as it is doing now, everybody suffers. And so I was somewhat taken aback that persons were reluctant to come forward. Even persons with the requisite skills and expertise had reservations of being seen in an activity that was identified as Electoral Reform Coalition and the United Workers' Party activity. So that was the unfortunate part of it. But other than that, persons who came out showed that the kind of interest that they had. We'd have loved to have seen more persons, especially from our state college, our students, because one thing I find in Dominica, our students are not at the forefront of what's going on. And that is how it's supposed to be. We have a state college. Our students should be at the center of any kind of protest actions that are taking place in Dominica. They should be at the center of any kind of movement for change, any kind of movement for economic expansion. They should be at the front and center. But we don't see them, which is a very unfortunate, thing for me. Because students, I believe, they should be the ones leading the charge in a lot of ways. Because after all, that's the future of the country. The future is theirs. And they should be making a bigger play. They should be much more visible in all of that. Having said that, though, I really wanted to say congratulations to all of the persons who really helped us get this thing through. It was not just me, it's true. The idea was born out of a desire to want to do something around the economy, but a number of persons stepped up in the planning phase, a number of persons who still want to remain behind the scenes. Again, some of them don't want to be seen, to be identified, but they were there working with us behind the scenes. Simeon Joseph, for example, played a pivotal role in what we saw rolled out on the night of the activity. He was very much instrumental in that. It was well scripted by him and hugely successful. A number of other persons played various roles. I also want to thank all the presenters who gave up the time. We had persons who came from overseas. We had at least 4 or 5, I think 5 Dominicans came specifically, paid their own way to be part of the event physically in Dominica. And so we're very grateful for that and just a tremendous amount of interest that was generated within the diaspora for what we're doing in Dominica. So my takeaway from this, Lofty, as I sum up, is that I see that there is a great interest in what is going on in Dominica, in particular by the Dominican diaspora, that there are hundreds, if not thousands of Dominicans who want to give something back to their country in a very tangible way, but who are kind of restricted now or who do not want to do it with this existing government. And I believe overall the Dominican public are hungry for change. And the support that they gave, the interest that they showed in the Economic Revival Summit tells me that that's exactly where we're headed. We're headed for change, and that's a good place to be at currently.
Yes, indeed. Just before I pull in Ken Vital, who was there for the 3 days, I believe, and even chaired some part of that function. Doc, let me ask you straight off the bat, how did you and your team manage to, quote unquote, recruit all these professionals and persons who are experts in their field to share so that Dominicans could benefit?
You know what I found, Lofty? I found a willingness from people to devote themselves and their time. It was not very difficult, to be honest, except for in a couple instances where persons we spoke to kind of backed out, but otherwise, these were individuals who were willing. In one of the presenters actually was one of those who paid his way and who contributed to the success of the summit. But I found just in a willingness on the part of Dominicans to give something back and to do something in an activity that was not just a CO. It was not just a CO, it was a very serious event. It was about nation building, it was about planning, strategizing for the future. It was about providing hope to the people of Dominica. And I was really inspired and encouraged by a number of Dominicans who were willing to give something back to their country and who said yes to us. And so, we are really in a good place in Dominica. We have the skill set, we have the resources that we need. We just need to get it together so that we can build Dominica and move Dominica to that place where I believe it can be.
Yes, thank you very, very much indeed. Mr. Vital, your initial impressions?
Well, let me just start from where Thompson left. One thing for sure is the summit demonstrated that, and well, something we always know, that we have bright people everywhere. We have invested in training our people at the primary level, but many people have gotten the opportunity to go overseas and further their education. And often when Dominicans go and study abroad, they often do very well. We are bright people. Many of them have gained tremendous experience, and it showed at the summit. It showed very much in the presentations at the summit, because many of those who presented were people who are in current positions in the US, in the Caribbean. Some of them will work on their own. So it was clear that we have talent. We have people who understand economics, who understand the digital economy, who understand ports, who understand some critical areas. We didn't touch on every area, but we touched on a number of critical areas: agriculture, who understand marketing, who understand those things. So we are confident we have that. Now, the question earlier, what Thompson raised, when people ask, well, why do something like this? Well, you see, NJAM, National Joint Action Movement, of which I am the chairperson, is something we have always said. We cannot wait until there is better governance to start the planning. We have to begin to think of these issues from now. So when there is an occasion for better governance, some of the issues would have already been fought through. And also some of the people, what the summit causes us to understand is some of the people that we can reach out to once there's better governance. So, development is about understanding, knowledge, using the knowledge about what are the challenges, what are the goals you want to get to, what are the challenges, and what are the kinds of solutions that you can apply. And Dominica has a long way to go. So we need to begin to think through. I myself have been thinking through those things for quite a while now, but it's not just about me, it's not just about Thompson, it's not about Johnson, it's about a collective. All of us as Dominicans, there's so many intelligent people out there, and we need to create an atmosphere, and we need to prepare for the creation of that time when we can bring all the skills together to begin to address the issues in Dominica. So that's one thing for sure that the summit demonstrated, that when the time comes for better governance, we will be able to draw on many good ideas across the country. But at the summit itself, the atmosphere was great. The atmosphere was very good. People showed a willingness to talk and to talk frankly. One of the things I enjoyed, to be quite honest, was the feedback from the audience, the feedback from persons who chose to ask a question, make a contribution. And I tell you, sometimes the experts there are persons who have studied and who have experience, but there are also persons who may not have studied, who are here, who understand, who are practically involved in the industry, in tourism, in agriculture, and they are seeing what are the issues, what are the challenges, and they can raise points. And there was a bit of that, there's quite a bit of that, and that was very, very, very much a good thing. And that is an attitude that we have to take going forward. We have to listen to the people who are in the trenches. We have to listen to the people who are practically experiencing life every day and the difficulties they face. And so we have to listen to them and bring that together as part of our planning for going forward. So this summit truly demonstrated that people have something to contribute. And it's my only hope that we can have that kind of summit every year, you know, as a national thing, as a national way of bringing together persons to speak about what are the challenges and what are the kinds of issues that we need to pursue. So that would be my comments on, well, my initial thoughts, at least on what went on. But it was very good. I really appreciate the atmosphere. I enjoyed the atmosphere. And I look forward to more of those kinds of sessions.
Yeah. All right. Thank you very much, Vital, indeed, for your very much interesting comments here in terms of how you thought the summit itself went at Jungle B. Brother Boston, you are there. You're part of the planning as well. Your thoughts, sir?
Well, Lofty, the Dominica Revival Economic Summit was a very exciting event. And I think as Dominican, and Ken made the point, as well as Dr. Fontaine, that we have Dominicans at home and abroad who are bright people and who have the willingness to make a difference in terms of wanting a prosperous Dominica for all Dominicans. And when it comes to the economy, it does not have color, does not have party. The economy is what really gives your country the opportunity to encourage investment and create jobs so that your people can work and earn, build themselves, build community, and build country. And I think the summit really exposes that. And the dinner was an exciting dinner, which started the summit. And those who got awards, I was very pleased. Those persons who have made their contribution. I was also happy when the late Philip Nassif, his daughter was there, and he received a lifetime award for the work that he has done in Dominica in terms of business and job creation and economic support. So when we come together as Dominicans, we can do great things. And there is no need for people to be fearful of their profession, their talent, their contribution for the growth of our country, and to make life better for themselves and the rest of the country. And I think the summit provided an opportunity, and the presentations were excellent presentations. I could not attend the rest of apart from the dinner, the rest of it, because I too was not feeling 100%, and I had some other engagement myself. But I listened online, and it went quite well. I want to say again, congratulations to Dr. Fountain and his team for doing this so well. And of course, Simeon and his team for ensuring that things work out well. And of course, to Kent, who chaired the various sessions, and the presenters who presented quite well. And the eloquence in which the persons in the audience made their contribution on the matters that was, discussed and related to them. Should so we have talent, we have the willingness, we have the commitment to make a better country, because the country does not belong to politics. Politics is part of our life, yes, part of our existence, and we get our government through politics, through elections and so on. But at the end of the day, we all have to come together as citizens and to do the things that ought to be done to ensure that the country is better. The country can provide opportunities for people to go to school, to learn, to earn, good security, law and order, as well as to ensure that our education system, our health system is intact. And the only way you can get those things in place is to have a strong economy. And I think the focus on the economy was solid. And I want to say that persons all over spoke about this, even if they did not want to attend Bison Fair, but they thought it was a wonderful thing. And I got a lot of good feedback about it. And I think we just have to uphold it and ensure that everybody rally behind good things for the interest of themselves and our country.
Yes, all right. Thank you very much, Brother Boston, indeed, for your comments here. We have these programs are normally very engaging, and so we already have a couple comments, suggestions, even questions from the panel here. Let me just see if I can plug in one here to ask you guys. That person's Ferdinand Lawrence is asking here, what would Dr. Thompson Fontaine or the other panelists believe was accomplished at the Economic Summit? Any one of you guys, in terms of accomplishments?
All right, I will list some, and I'm sure Kent and Bosso can also do the same. But in terms of accomplishments, I believe that we were able to show what is possible in terms of what Dominica can be, what we can get to, where we can get to. It showed the tremendous potential that exists and how that potential can be worked for our own good. So let me give you some examples of that. We looked, for example, at the knowledge-based industry, and we believe that that is an area that we can tap into, in particular to provide jobs for the young people. I'm of the firm belief that our young people need to have creative things to do, that our young people are better than an NEP program we have in Dominica. I firmly believe that. I believe that we are wasting a lot of young talent in Dominica, that persons who have gone to high school, who have gone to state college, should not be of the belief that their only access to some type of employment is through the NEP program. So the knowledge-based industry provides a tremendous outlet for that type of talent. And we're able to identify that within the summit. So an example of that is we all know of the call centers. The call centers is one end of the spectrum, but there are a number of other areas that young people can engage in using the computer and using what they love doing. I mean, our young people are literally glued to their PCs or their cell phones or their tablets on a continuous basis. And we're seeing that we can actually make that work for you in a way that we can tap into. So how do we tap into this? Well, there are opportunities for the formation partnerships with companies, in particular in the United States. Currently, it's a multi-billion-dollar industry. A lot of that business is now going to India. So you have in the Indian economy, every year we are told it's increasing by 30 to 40% every year in terms of employment, in terms of contribution to GDP, where the Indian population, because of their education and because of technology, they can be tied into work, into jobs for the United States market. So we're saying, well, why can't we in Dominica get a taste of that? All right. So that's one thing that the summit accomplished, that it allowed us to look specifically in this area. So coming out of the summit, we have decided that we will put together, and we started to work on that. In fact, the young man who gave the presentation, Mr. Latai, Winsbert Latai, who gave the presentation in this particular area, he's doing just that. He's working 24/7 remotely. He does not have to report to an office. He can be anywhere in the world, and he's working with his computer, with the internet. He's worked for Microsoft. He's worked for some of the largest corporations in the United States. Those opportunities are there. They exist, and we intend to tap into it. And the way we will do this, as a direct consequence of the summit, is to bring together a core group. Because one of the things that is really exciting, in addition to persons who were able to come, there were a few other individuals who were not able to make it, but who are working in just that space and who have the contacts, who have the ability to get us connected in that space. So we are putting together a small group that can begin to tap into this. So that is one of the positives out of this. Another accomplishment that I certainly would like to highlight is when we look, for example, at the renewable energy sector in Dominica, and we look at the potential that could also offer Dominica. So, you know, we talk very often about solar energy and wind energy and wind and wave energy and so on. But one of the exciting aspects that we identify out of this workshop, out of this revival summit, is in the area of the hydrogen production. Okay, and that is a byproduct of our geothermal energy. And we can actually tap into that because a number of boats have been refitted, like the cruise ships and cargo ships and so on, have been refitted to run on hydrogen. And hydrogen is a byproduct of the geothermal industry. So that is something, that's another area that we can look into. We also talked about the agriculture sector, how we can tap into our agriculture sector, into a manufacturing sector, how we can develop those. So I think what the conference, the economic summit, showed us is just the whole host of possibilities that exist. Possibilities at job creation, possibilities at enhancing our various sectors. Some of that will take longer term to bear fruit. Others will be more short term. For example, when we look at the agriculture sector, we see that we can create jobs in agriculture, in manufacturing. But if we're going to create jobs in agriculture, we will necessarily need to revamp the agriculture sector. Well, that's a longer term project or prospect where you have to invest in replanting, in rotation, and all the rest of it that goes into agriculture. But what we accomplished in this particular Economic Revival Summit was to show what is possible. And that is an accomplishment in itself, because it has allowed us to set the basis for planning and for strategizing around job growth, job creation, economic growth and expansion, and really revolutionizing our economy, creating jobs for our people, and really bringing Dominica out of poverty.
Yes, indeed. Thank you. Thank you very much, Doc. Very, very well said indeed. Any further thoughts in terms of accomplishments at the summit from you guys?
Well, I think identifying the talents and where they are, that is one of the things that was accomplished there. The focus on the economy so that everybody comes out to realize the economy of any country is not a joke. It's a very important area to focus on, to build up. And of course, it also brought people together. People recognized an opportunity to come together and to, if you like, bring their talent, bring their profession together and to offer it at the service of the country and its people. And in this respect, I think it gives us an opportunity to build that cadre of professionals and other persons who can work together. And as Thompson said a while ago, in the whole area of growing, expanding the economy. And as a small country, small developing state, the thing is we may say we do not have much like oil and all of these things, but we have a lot if we are disciplined as a country and if our governance is focused on uplifting people's social and economic well-being, so that we can use what we have to create a greater impact in the lives of our people. And I think the summit itself were able to bring all of that together. And what you may see coming up is even those who were opposing the summit or who did not care much at the time will start to look at it and look at where they can, benefit from it in terms of their own programs and their own plans and so forth.
Right.
Yes, indeed.
Yes.
Ken, just before you come in, let me just push a point here in that what Civic Vibes will be doing is that we will be reaching out to, if not all, but the majority, the bulk of these presenters who presented at that summit, and see if we can get them here so that they could go into more detail as to some of the things they presented, great information, useful information as it pertains to development of Dominica, especially where the economy is concerned, because we realized that the time was, sort of short and they had to condense the presentations. And so, yes, Civic Vibes will be playing its part to further expound on the summit in terms of reaching out to these professionals out there so that they can get at least an hour, hour and a half to basically come and just flesh it out so that the ordinary man, as it were, everybody could get a better understanding of, what they presented and also future development for Dominica. I just wanted to punch that there.
No, I
Yes,
think that's
Lofty.
excellent, Lofty.
Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you. And thank you very much for this and for your proactive vibe in terms of putting that out there, volunteering your time. And we really appreciate your efforts in that regard and your love for country and contribution to Dominica. Much thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, Ken, sorry about that.
Yes, Loftus, indeed, that's a very good thing. But what did we get out of it? I'll be a little more general. All the specifics are good and great, and that's so. I'll be a little more general. But I remember there was a particular person in the audience, who I think it was more than one, who said more than once. He told me in person, and he said it in the general meeting as well. And maybe more than one person who said, let this not just be talk, but let it go beyond talk. I don't know if you recall that, Loftus Thompson, that question was read and people keep saying.
Indeed. Yes, indeed.
Right. So I start with that because we have to recognize what it was, submit. The nature of it was planning. And we are not in government, but there are two reactions to this. So as I had said earlier on, when you do a submit like that, it's because you want to prepare for governance. You don't want to wait until. So right, you want to prepare for governance. You want to begin to see what are the issues, challenges, what are the solutions, and so on. And the submit gave us that. The question becomes, what are you going to do with this? Well, some of it you cannot do much with because you're not yet in government, but you have got to prepare for government. I am determined, and maybe I should use that opportunity to tell people that as of next week, not next week, week after next, you're going to see my presence a lot more in the political arena because we have to begin to prepare this country for better governance. So I'm going to be back on I never left, of course, but I've been distracted by a few things that I have taken care of in preparation. But we have to begin to, the submit provided some information that we could build on. There are many other areas and there are more details. That's why what you said, Loftus, is a good thing. We have to go deeper into some of these areas. And there are other areas that we did not touch that we have to touch. From the NJAM perspective, one of the things we always said, because, we were very much interested in ensuring that when there is better governance, the occasion for better governance, that we hit the ground running. And NJAM have decided in our meetings that part of what we want to do is to prepare a national vision plan. And my own intention and NJAM's own intention was that out of the summit, we would also get some inputs. It's far from enough. It's a lot more that we need to add to it, but it provides some of that thinking, some of the issues we need to look out for, some of the challenges and some of the possible solutions. It begins to provide that kind of information from which you can build some sort of plan. Now, I could do that. NJAM could do that for the benefit of the country. Europe could do that. Freedom Party could do that. Anybody could do that because this was a very open thing. And I'll tell you who often does that. I remember, also you will recall, often when we had the Freedom Party program, when I led the Freedom Party back then, we often said many things. And we were never shy of talking about what it would take to move Dominica forward. And I could tell you, I've seen many things that we said ended up in the budget address. So even the Labour Party could take from what was said. The problem with the Labour Party, with the incumbent government, is that often even the good things we said, they would try to reflect it in their strategies, in their budgets, but they just do not have the integrity it takes to make it work. They do not make it work properly. They do not have the people. They do not employ the people. In fact, the people who have the abilities and the people who have the knowledge, such as some of the people that presented, they wouldn't even engage those people because these people are genuine people. These people are people of integrity who will not subject themselves to being corrupt. So even if you will say to them, this is the best way to develop agriculture, they're not even able to do it because of their corruption, because of their corrupt ways and their evil ways. So the truth is, we need to begin as Dominican people to gather, and that's what the summit provided. It presented inputs so that we could build on. Anybody could build on, but certainly NJAM is going to do that. Build on in preparation of a national vision plan that all parties could maybe buy into or could serve every political party, whoever or whichever government replaces what is currently occurring in Dominica. So that is certainly what this provided. So that's one element. The other element is what Thompson was talking about. There are some things that came out of this, and it was a thinking of mine before that, but it's confirmed that there are things we need not, and I am myself, I'm determined not to just wait until governance has changed. There are some things we need to begin to do as a people. There are some things we need to begin to do in spite of this government, that we can move our country forward. And Thompson raised some of the examples, and there are other examples. And as we go through, and as I told you, I'm going to be coming out very strongly, but these are some of the things I'll be sharing with people, that we cannot just sit back and wait. We want to do everything to get better governance, and we will do everything. And I'm very confident we'll get better governance. But in the meantime, we have to do, and we are going to do. I am definitely going to do. I'm sure Boss is going to join me, and others are going to join me. We're going to do everything we can to do what we can do now. It's tough. It's not necessarily what our political party should be doing. But what the situation we are in calls that those of us who are able, who can give the time, we have to begin to demonstrate to people that better can be done. Even if what we can do, we must do. And the conference provided some of that knowledge, some of the suggestions that we can begin to work on even now.
Yes, indeed. A time check here. Thank you very much, Kent. The time check here is 12. 12. Well, it's 12 minutes to 7 o'clock. It is 6:48. And so those of you who may be tuning in at this time, we're having this very candid conversation, informative conversation with three esteemed gentlemen, Dr. Thompson Fontaine, a leader of the United Workers' Party in Dominica, out there doing some good work for and on behalf of the country, no matter even if he's out there. And also Brother Johnson Buston, he is representing the ERC here this afternoon alongside Brother Kent Vital, indeed. Conversation going good so far. A comment from Brother Marshall Lawrence in terms of some of the accomplishment here. He writes, I think this summit raised the level of hope to Dominica future. How there are alternative plans, it says, to present governance pattern. And yes, that summit really and truly, it raised the consciousness based on what I've been getting on the ground so far, where Dominicans are concerned by and large. Yes, guys.
Yes, sorry.
Oh, sorry.
You just
No,
no, absolutely. Yeah. No, certainly. I agree. It did, because in a kind of interesting way, the summit caught the imagination of the Dominican public. I told them, that was almost the population of Dominica viewing, 50,000 unique viewers, so that tells me a lot. It tells me that, and as Marshall rightly pointed out, that it really captured the imagination of the public to the possibilities that exist. And that to me is what is exciting. I mean, if you looked at the night, at the night of the awards dinner and the opening ceremony, I mean, I was moved in a lot of different ways, but in particular, to fill in the pain of our young people, and but at the end of the day, I think we are doing this for the future generation, really. It's not so much about us. We are on our way out. It is about the younger generation and what kind of country that they're going to occupy. When we were young, when we were in our youth, we were excited about Dominica, because the opportunities were there for education, for growth, for employment, for expansion. We had all of those opportunities, and that is lost now on this generation. And so in a lot of ways, it allowed us to focus. And I'm thankful that I was able to bring that focus, in particular on our young people. Because to me, that is where we need to focus on. So when we talk about job creation, it's really creating jobs for the young people. When we talk about building the Dominican economy, it is really about building a Dominican economy for the young people. And so, it's a great opportunity, and I'm very happy that the people of Dominica joined with us on this and helping us move that agenda forward.
Yes.
Yes, indeed. Boss,
Indeed.
any thoughts from you?
Well, yes, I mentioned the fact that it get us all, Dominicans and abroad, to focus on the economy and to give the economy the kind of attention that it should be getting. And of course, the question of jobs was mentioned several times, because the bottom line is to have an economy that would encourage investment, that will attract investors, both local investors and foreign investors, who can come, bona fide investors who can invest here. Because I was speaking to an investor who said he came here and explore, and to him, he got a sense that you have to give those in authority something on the side to be in good books. And you don't want an economy who want investors to give something on the side.
You have to grease their palms, Bosso.
Yes, you have to give, an investor must come, and what the law provides, he or she must get it.
Yeah.
And create the employment that is necessary. And the role of the government, whichever government, is to create the enable environment so that investors, both locally and overseas investors, foreign that is, can come and invest to help the country itself to create employment. And the other thing too is, quickly, it gave a sense that people should not have their life dependent on handout. There must be ways to work and to earn at the end of the week, fortnight, month, your income, your salary, so you can buy your way for your survival. You don't sit there and wait on a grandfather or godfather to hand you something and believe all is well. Because at the end of the day, that person is not available to give you, then in our local parlance, quite quasi. So this is why, as I said earlier, the focus on the economy, it helps the summit help us out to focus on it. Like I said, even those who may not have been happy about the movement, they too will see areas they can use. And Ken made the point earlier on himself, have seen areas that he will use in his own as an individual to start to do something even before he gets an opportunity to serve in government.
Yes, indeed. Folks, as we rush to the 7 o'clock hour here, when we must take a break, let me just ask that very, very important question here, because I know that question may be on some people's mind and they're free to ask. You can put it in the feed. Doc, you said something earlier that struck me and it stuck with me, in that the level of fear by even some professionals in and out of Dominica who may not won their voice or had very little to do with the summit in terms of they being seen or heard. Gentlemen, the level of decadence, the level of fear, the level of pessimism that has sort of engulfed this country, especially within the past 15, 20 years. And that is a soul-searching question I'm asking each of you individually now. Do you think you guys have what it takes in terms of the opposition forces out there to get rid or sort of lessen the scourge of such situation? When you speak to people on the ground, Doc, you were on the ground for some time in Dominica, you get that, I get that kind of feeling that, all hope is gone. There's nothing to look forward to again. There's nothing really and truly. So I'm just asking that question out loud. Do you think that you guys have what it takes to sort of, deal with that kind of reality on the ground? Because for sure we have to overcome that.
One of the things that I did not realize how far-reaching it was, and I did not realize that this government had done. We sometimes blame the government for what we see, the level of decadence, the level of social decline, and so on in Dominica, the failure to deal with the economy, the failure to provide opportunities. But one of the major problems created by this government is just that, to put that fear on the people. And it is not easy. It is not easy, and people are afraid to speak, people are afraid to talk. I'll give you a very classic example of this. I was on the ground I will not say in which village, because it will be easy to identify that particular person. And I was told that this particular person is a very important individual in a particular ministry. Well, let me say what ministry. So I called out to this person when I wanted to talk to them. And when I did, the person kind of turned their back towards me, and they were walking like a few steps ahead of me. So I am talking to them, but they are not facing me. So we are walking, right? So we're walking in tandem, but I'm just a few steps behind. And the person is reacting to me. They're answering my questions. They're interacting with me. And I find it kind of odd. I say, but that's kind of strange. Why wouldn't they just stop and let us have a conversation? And then afterwards, I spoke to the person's father, who is a very strong supporter of ours. He told me his daughter is one of our strongest supporters, but she was just fearful to be seen talking to me in that village. Because if she's seen talking to me, the news will somehow reach the ministry that she was engaged with me in conversation. This is something that happened, and I could not believe it. This is a professional person with a very high-ranking job within the government who is afraid to be seen talking to a potential leader of the country. So that tells you how far we've fallen as a country. And so you ask the question, do we have what it takes? I think we do. I believe it's a question of telling people that they need not fear. I think it's a question of basically encouraging our people, talking to them, the series of engagements that we had during the 4 weeks I was in Dominica recently made me believe even more that it is possible, because we were not always there. It took the active action of this government to bring us to where we are. And it will take the active action of a new government to bring us out of it, or we'll get out of it, because that's not a natural place. That is a place that is created artificially by this government to maintain its hold on the people of Dominica. So that will be broken. It must be broken. And so once we break the hold, the stranglehold this government has on the people will be free to express themselves. They'll be free to exchange ideas. They'll be free to associate with whomever that they want to associate with. And at the end of the day, their contribution will be valued. Their service to country will be valued. That's what we're all about. And that's the other reason you will notice, Lofty, that the Economic Summit was all about bringing Dominicans together. It was not about, labels. People were surprised at some of the people who came. You're going to say, but these persons are not necessarily supporters of the opposition. But they came nonetheless, because they understood that what we're trying to do is a message of togetherness, of bringing people together, of saying, hey, we can do this as Dominicans, man. Let us be Dominicans first. And I gave the example in my opening statement, when I gave the remarks at the opening thing about the idea of being Dominican first. This idea that above all else, you're Dominican first. Your labor rights second, or workers, or whatever it is that afterwards. But ultimately, your number one identity is that of being a Dominican. And if you understand that, if you understand our identity as Dominicans, then a lot of these issues will disappear overnight.
Yes. Loftus?
Yes, go right ahead, Kent. We're on 7 o'clock hour, but you can go ahead. Yes.
Yeah, okay. I take it. Well, what I'm going to say might switch nicely, might relate nicely with or the next hour. But I take it that you're asking, do we have what it takes to have to replace this bad government, given how entrenched they are, given what they have done in this nation, given that the fight ahead, are we ready? Are we prepared to do what it takes to win political office? Would that be a fair interpretation of your question?
Well, yes, but not just win political office. I was more or less dealing with the reality on the ground, especially where the fear factor, the level of
fear.
Yeah.
Right. So how do we overcome that level of fear?
Very well, because we have to overcome that, Kent, in order to open up doors of possibilities.
Well, I see what you're saying, but let's say this. Let's put it this way, and that is why we want electoral reform. Let's put it this way. If the government had not cheated, if the government had not sent different people voting multiple times, if the government had not brought people here who have been out for more than 5 years, and who are no longer resident in Dominica, if they had not done that, not for the snap election because there was no participation by the two main opposition parties, but the 2 elections or 3 elections before that, they would have already been out of office. In other words, the majority of people here, although they are fearful, but when they go to the polls, they do what they have to do. The majority here, when they go to the polls, in spite of the fact that they don't say anything publicly, they do not vote for this government. And guess what? The government knows it. Now, I agree. What we need to do is pull out even more people. But I am very sure that more than 50% of the people here do not vote for the government. And that is why they are doing electoral reform. That is why they want to ensure that they can bring in persons who are not resident in Dominica to vote and overwhelm the voting. And that is why they do not want electoral reform, so that they can use ill-gotten gains, ill-gotten monies, even Dominica's own money that is out there, right, that they should have brought in, so that they can use those monies to bring people in and win elections. But the people here have already rejected them. Now, by their own actions, you could see what I'm saying is true, because if it wasn't so, they wouldn't be fighting tooth and nail to do electoral reform. I'm using that word deliberately, reform. They're trying to codify unfair elections. The only reason they are doing that is because they know they cannot win. So even if we have people who are not saying anything, who are afraid to talk, and I understand that, and we want to get them out of that, because when they get out of that, even more will come on board. But I already know that enough of them who are here have already determined not, or have not voted for this government. So in other words, part of the job is done already. We have to do more, I agree. So the bigger part of the job is really to ensure that we have electoral reform, so that they do not deform our country for their foolishness. We have to ensure that that is not the case. And that is what we'll talk about, I guess, in the next hour. But yes, we have to try to get fear out of people, and we're going to do everything it takes. And when we do things like that, the more we do it, the more of us show up, is the more we encourage other people. So we have got to continue on that journey. But notwithstanding that, more than half of the people here have already rejected him, and he knows that. They have already rejected the government and their foolishness. We now have to build on that, make sure there is no electoral reform to ensure that the job is complete.
All right, indeed. Thank you very much, Brother Ken Vital, Brother Fontaine, Brother Boston Sufa, for that level of optimism in the conversation moving forward here. Folks, it is 5 minutes past 7 o'clock. That is where we must take that break at this time. And how opportune is that song entitled Opportunity for Change by our very own Joy Stout. Let's do that number and we'll be back in just a bit. Yes, with some of your calls and comments.
Change, change, try again. As a true Dominican, I really think we could make it. But as a people, we have to learn to commit. Journey ahead will never be smooth and sweet. But as an ambitious nation, we have to be upbeat. I know we have done it before, so we can do it again. All depend we maintain, but pride we have to maintain. In order to create a better world, every living soul has to play their role. We have an opportunity to change things around, an opportunity to change things, an opportunity to make Dominica strong.
Yes, indeed, an opportunity to change things around and make Dominica strong.
Opportunity to change things, an opportunity.
That is all about the conversation tonight, huh?
We got to stamp out the devil, stamp them out, stamp out all evil, jealousy, not right.
Yes, folks, there is hope ahead.
We got to stamp out greediness, stamp them out, stamp out wickedness.
I normally say we may be going through our very dark days now.
Tomorrow is the first day. The rest of our lives, let's make tomorrow the first day of the rest of our life.
Indeed, as Joy Stout is saying, let's make tomorrow the best day of our life.
Change things, an opportunity to make.
There's hope ahead, Dominicans. Keep the strain, holy strain. We are right there. Don't give up.
Change, change.
One more verse from Miss Stout, and then we're gonna get back to a live panel here.
I remember the love and unity that we once shared. Starting from the home, the children would be prepared. Goodness was a daily part of our living. This society would be part of our children upbringing. We used to eat everything we grow and grow everything we eat. But smiling faces would glow and the people will rule the streets. We need to go back to where we were. Otherwise, we'll witness things we never seen before. We have an opportunity to change things around, an opportunity to change things, an opportunity to make.
So yes, folks, the numbers to call into the program, they are 245-2396. These numbers are scrolling across your screen just in case.
Change things.
Or 615-9470. These numbers will get your voice into the conversation.
Stamp out the ugly, stamp out cruelty. Jealousy, not by we, certainly. We got to fight hypocrisy.
Our panels here, Dr. Thompson Fontaine, Brother Johnson Buston, and Mr. Kent Vital.
By we, certainly. Tomorrow is the first day of the rest of our lives. Let's make tomorrow the first day of the rest of our lives.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Stout. Let's get back to the panel here as we must continue the conversation here. Gentlemen, welcome back. Much needed break indeed.
Oh, great, thank you. Yes.
Yes, indeed. Gentlemen, as we want to sort of dovetail into another segment here, you know, which deals with our economy primarily. This thing, I call it free, fair, and transparent general elections in Dominica. That's the coin phrase that we normally use here on Civic Vibes. Other places, you guys, you know, we call it electoral reform and whatever it is, but it is basically free, fair, and transparent general election. That's what it really boils down to at the end of the day. What has been done so far, Bosso, Ken, Brother Fontaine, to sort of see that a reality in terms of not just talk, as Ken said before, but more action now?
Well, Lofty, we have been on this route for quite some time, and our neighboring islands, the Caribbean here, have themselves done electoral reform, and they were not afraid to use the word electoral reform because they recognize that you must modernize and improve as you go along. And I made the point on radio that in the old days, you had to have land and property more in the bank to run for election. Women could not vote because once the men vote, the men represented the women. Now you had to be 21 years old to vote. And reform, what it did then, it removed the situation where you have to have property and more in the bank because that gives you sort of economic advantage. And if you have political power added to that, you can just be the master of everybody and trample on people. So forefathers came together and changed that and then gave women the right to vote, the right to enter parliament, the right to be ministers. And many women today are enjoying that right. The young people, now it was changed that you will vote at 18. So from 18 years, you can participate in the political process to determine who represents you in parliament, because we all cannot go and sit in parliament. So we have a system that select people to go into a parliament. I know a number of countries, including St. Kitts, who did reform, and the OAS paid for their reform. So therefore, they did not have to put their hands in their pocket. We delay and dance around that for all these years until we find ourselves in a situation where we had to pay thousands of dollars to get advice. And who really hired these people with the government? The work that was done by the Civic Vibes, Consensus Movement, UWP, Freedom Party, NJAM, just name it, the group of civil society which involved the business sector, the churches, and the unions, and reported quite well. We had Mayor Motley who came and said exactly what we said. Then the government then appointed the OAS Caricom Commonwealth for team of these persons. They came, they did their own research, their own background work, and came up with what we recommended. I'm sure you all remember when the Attorney General said before the 2019 election that if they have to go with what the OAS curriculum and Commonwealth recommended, it would cost the country a lot of money, and therefore they were too close to the election. We already had sufficient time for the election. It was not due in 2019. Then the Prime Minister went, they had this snap election, they won the election, and he said in his first 100 days, they would appoint Sir Dennis Byron to do that work. So these are people that themselves are hiring and paying. He paid Sir Dennis Byron almost $600,000 to do this work. He had pre-report, final report. He hired a lady who did the drafting, it came in. And some of the things, or most of the things he recommended to the person who hired him, they remove it. It's not the opposition who hires Sir Dennis Byron, it's the government. And things like campaign finance reform and all of that, they remove that. The question of the 5-year period when you are out, if you're out for more than 5 years uninterrupted, you ought not to work, because our forefathers recognize there'll be more people from the country living outside. And if you just open the gates, you may have a country where people outside determine who govern you, and those inside will just be governed by those who vote in here for whoever government they want, and so on. So we have been talking about reform for all these years, and we're going back and forth, and so forth. And recently, the Prime Minister declared war on the Electoral Commission when he said you don't have to take what they say. That's the level of indiscipline that lies with the Prime Minister. And we ourselves, you know, you're part of the ERC. Thompson and his party is there, Kenton and Jem is there, and other groups are there. And we did our very best to have an audience with the Prime Minister. And he played game, he called me, the meeting never come through. We tried with the President, we had a very nice meeting with her. You had the meeting, Kenton had the meeting, Thompson had the meeting. A very cordial meeting. She did say to us, she can't do anything per se, but she can advise. And we said, we hope that you can advise and advise well and advise properly, strongly. And she agreed, and so forth. We wrote to the Electoral Commission. We have not been able to meet them. So what we have done since the Prime Minister made his statement and his threats to talk about this time around, nobody will stop him. As if well, it's something he do on his estate, and nobody else have a say, because the thing is already in the frying pan, it's in the oil, and there are other fish to fry. And so we said no. So we have written and delivered a dossier to him on the covered letter to the President, the copied, the Electoral Commission, the Attorney General, and we have written to a number of heads of state and heads of governments throughout the region and organizations throughout the region. We're also sending a copy of what we're doing to Sir Dennis Byron to see what he recommended and got paid for, was thrown aside, rejected, and so forth. We send letters to the RSS as well. Let them know that, and that we are receiving some very encouraging responses and acknowledgements, and we are getting the people saying that they can't understand how you would hire somebody to do some work, pay them so much money, and throw the work aside. Something sinister must be part of your plan, and so forth. So we are saying, as a country and as a people, and we're calling Dominicans at home and abroad to rally together to get the right thing done for the country, because election have consequences. And if you elect the wrong people in government, and we have had this kind of thing on us for the last 20 more or so years, and the country is getting worse. And therefore, you spoke about fear a while ago. Let me just quickly, before I end, let me just quickly say, we're a democratic country. And therefore, people have a right in a democratic country to decide, based on your policy and your program, who they support. So what we will do is to encourage people that a government, apart from this government, will provide for them the level of liberty and freedom that they had before. In the public service, in the police service, wherever you work in the public affairs, you will be promoted based on merit, not what party you support. We are not against a house was built for persons who did not have a house, but we are saying if you are paying $600 rent monthly, pay free. And therefore, the other free, use it to your other thing, your utility bills and all of that. And at some point, you get from that house, you get from government, your paper saying this house belongs to you. We have had this experience before where a lady told me when Eugenia Charles had said that in Baptist houses, people must, she repaired after Hurricane David and people must pay for it. She cursed Eugenia, and then she realized the importance because she was able to mortgage her house, to send her daughter to study. That's what you want. So people have their independence because they need not a handout, they need hands up.
Yes, indeed. But so I realized that you mentioned you guys sent that dossier as well to Roosevelt Scary and other organizations citing the stalling tactics. Roosevelt Scary has been one who, in my estimation, have been kicking that can down the road ever so often. Why? Just why you guys choose to send that document to, I am saying now, one of the main architects of our demise where those reforms are concerned?
Yeah, well, you see, you have to be reasonable. The Labour Party, like the UWP, like the Freedom Party, or any other party, have the same rights in terms of the discussion of reform. That's what and the voters, that's what they call the stakeholders. And they want to show the world, the country and the world, that we're doing things in a reasonable way. And we're not there to have a problem with Roosevelt Scary and his government, or even the police, because the police are our brothers and sisters, our relatives, our friends. We just want the right thing done, and so forth. So we want the world to know here it is, and I'm sure they know, but just remind them, here it is. And as you said, we have been kicking a can, whatever it is, and nothing is being done. But we are still hoping that common sense will prevail, you know, and a person who say he has a heart, I don't know whether he has a Christian heart or he has a shepherd pie, whatever he has. But we're saying at some point, people discuss. I mean, I gave an example last night, Lofty. Look at in South Africa, Nelson Mandela was in prison for many years, just because he stood up to defend the rights of Black people in South Africa. And de Klerk recognized at some point in his life, after all what Nelson went through, it comes to a time when this nonsense has to stop. And liberation came, and then Nelson himself became president of South Africa. And if he had a wicked heart, he could easily decide, you know, something, we're going to focus on development, let me focus on revenge. But he focused on uniting South Africa and moving it forward and so forth. I mean, he can't be so rest in peace. So we're saying, we're still hoping that Roosevelt Scary and his government will search their hearts and recognize that reform is necessary for our electoral processes to work well in the interest of everybody, so that you have a level playing field for whoever want to contest election. Now in Dominica, it looks as if, well, if you're contesting for Labour, you're in the public service, you're free to leave your job and get another job. If you're contesting for any other party, you are fearful, you will say, boy, me, you know something, I don't get involved in that, and so on. So the country's on a standstill, and therefore people don't have the benefit of their good citizens who went to school, who learned, who earned, and should be given opportunity to represent the country.
Sure. Thank you very much, Bosso. You talk about heart. I wonder if these guys really do still have a heart, but your guess is as good as mine in that department. Kent, Pontin, your thoughts?
Yeah. Well, let me jump in there. Your question is what has been done. Maybe a better question is what has not been done. Bosso explained. I mean, just put it in the reverse.
Yeah.
The ARC have done a lot lately. But even before the ARC, there has been the UWP, there have been Freedom, there have been, and Bosso explained all of those, the group of business, church, unions who came together and made the recommendations. A lot has been done to bring reasoning and sense to the table. A lot. I would struggle to find what hasn't been done. So that's what I'm saying. Easier question: what hasn't been done? And then there was a previous attempt, to remember, to bring electoral reform to Parliament some time ago, and the people stood, and it was withdrawn. So people have actually demonstrated as well that they are willing to make their voices heard. So quite a bit has been done.
That's in May of 2017.
Right, May of 2007. So quite a bit has been done, and we have to take examples of all of that. But we have continued to be reasonable. We have continued to, and this time the dossier took a different tone, in the sense that we are laying down that this is unacceptable. We are showing the exact areas that need to be addressed to make it acceptable. So the dossier is direct, and it also highlights some of what needs to be done to keep our country at peace, what needs to be done to prevent our country from really degenerating into something we would not like to see. And the opportunity was taken to share that with the rest of the region. So we have gone a step further in the sense that we are saying, and I don't think before we may have, well, I think even then there was an attempt previously on the UWP to share the rest of the region, and they kicked it out. I remember, from what I understand, Thompson maybe can speak on that because he's the leader of the party, when UWP went through the former leader to Georgetown. I think the CARICOM meeting was held, and they were not even given a hearing. This time we decided as an ARC, as a representation of all of us, political parties and others, to send and copy them, and also indicated that some of the responses so far in acknowledgements have been encouraging. So we want the region to understand what's going on. So a lot has been done, and we'll continue to encourage the people to be reasonable. We are, I guess we'll speak about that in a while, but a lot have been done already, and we have done so much that no one can say we were not reasonable in everything we have done. We have done everything to be reasonable. So let me, Bosso said it all, but just wanted to emphasize those points.
All right. Yes, Doc.
Yes.
Thank you, Ken.
Thank you. I wanted to comment on that, and indeed Ken mention what happened when we went to CARICOM. In fact, I was part of that delegation. And what it made me understand is that at the end of the day, Dominicans have to do whatever they need to do on their own. We're not going to get help from the region. We paid our passage and went to Guyana at a CARICOM heads of government meeting to bring attention to what was going on in Dominica. It was actually, at the time, it was myself, Honorable Linton, and Joseph Isaac. It was the three of us. And we were truly shocked when we arrived the night before, and the following morning we took a cab to go into the building, and we were stopped. Police officers ordered us to turn back, said we could not gain access to the venue, and we found out later on that the Prime Minister had informed them that we were troublemakers and so on, and we were coming to disrupt and that kind of thing. So, we also saw when the RSS came to Dominica, November 29, 2019, and fired on the people of Salisbury to suppress the people of Salisbury on the eve of an election. So that is made it very clear to us, and to me at least, that we're not going to get any help from outside. That any change that we want, anything that we desire, we have to do it ourselves as Dominicans. The onus is on us. And so the question of electoral reform is clearly upon us. What are we going to do about it? You wonder about it, and you wonder why a government that has been in office for 24 years would go to such lengths, A, to steal an election, and secondly, to prevent electoral reform. You wonder why. What does this government have to hide? What does this Prime Minister have to hide? You claim to be such a popular leader, such a well-loved leader, and yet you have to win by trickery, by cheating, by manipulation. Makes no sense to me. So something's wrong with that picture. And the Prime Minister needs to understand that, as Ken rightly pointed out, his days are numbered, that there are more people in Dominica that do not want this government. And one of the things that surprised me, as we did our canvassing on the ground this past few weeks, and I went across the different villages in Dominica, I kept asking my colleagues, but wait a minute, how can this government keep winning elections? Because the majority of people that you meet, that you engage with, are not supporting the government. It is scary. I mean, it is unbelievable to think. And I don't believe that Dominicans are pretending because it's us. Dominicans, one thing, if you know anything about Dominicans, is that they wear their party affiliation on their sleeves. Okay, you know who is supporting you. It's one of those things you absolutely know when you start to talk to somebody. You know whether or not they are supporting you or whether they will support you. And it worked time and time again. In fact, I went to Grand Four and I met about 11, no, 12. There were 12 young women in the NAP program, and they were taking a break under a tree. So I engaged them I began to talk to them. I mean, I know all of them, and so I know where they stand and so on. And I just spoke to them, and we just discussing, everybody exchanging ideas and so on. We're talking about the economy, we're talking about grandpa, we're talking about politics and so on. And when we were done, my partner told me, I can tell you these two ladies, and he said, these two ladies do not support you. I tell him, how do you know? They never said anything. They never, said that they were labor rights or that they were thing. But just by the way they were conversing, just by their body language, their interaction with me, he was able to say that these two ladies do not support you. And he was correct. He was absolutely correct. I know that these two ladies are labor, they're very strong labor rights. So you know who is not supporting you, so you wonder where this government gets its appeal or where it gets its support. And that is the reason why, and the only reason why we have all this cocoa macaque and all this cautioning going on with electoral reform. Because this prime minister understands better than anybody else that his support among the Dominican public is at the lowest that it has ever been. In that same group I talked about, these young women, all the women say, I don't care what all you say, I don't care who talk about me, but I'm not supporting this government again. That's it, I finish. I give him Dr. Fontaine my vote, and people are becoming bold like that and turning openly against the government. Some of them are breaking away from that fear. These were individuals who are working, by the way, within the NEP program, and they say, no, they're saying it publicly. You can report me if you want. But that is how I feel now, and the government understands, and a lot of what we see going on, Lofty, all of this, this hiding and this making false promises and this failure to bring the thing to parliament and changing this and changing that, removing the residency criteria, making it difficult for people to all of those that is going on is because the government realizes that his days are numbered. And the people of Dominica have truly turned against them. And that is the reality on the ground. That is the absolute reality. And so we are going through what we're going through in terms of what we need to do to ensure electoral reform, because this is a government that is in what I call desperation straits. This government is desperate. And the question that Dominicans need to ask themselves is why? Why is it that a government that has been in office for 25 years is still afraid of losing an election? That they will threaten snap election, that they're prepared to have free elections within the space of 5 years, free elections within the space of 5 years because of that fear. And what is driving this fear? What is driving this government to the point where they figure they cannot lose office even after 25 years? And that, to me, is the fundamental question that Dominicans need to be asking themselves beyond the issues of electoral reform. Because if they can answer that, they will be able to understand why it is that we have so much problems getting electoral reforms in Dominica. And all the more reason why we need to push for electoral reform.
Yeah. If I could jump in there a little bit, Loftus.
Yeah, sure.
Just to support a point that Thompson was making concerning that that we are on our own. I mean, we're doing everything we can to ensure that the region understands, and we are sending that out there. And maybe half of those leaders who were present, or maybe a little less than half, in 2019 at the elections, maybe they are no longer there. But what happened to the RSS is a clear demonstration that we are on our own. And we not only have to question our prime minister, we also have to question some of the other prime ministers, and we can hope that they do the right thing. But this time we give nobody no excuse. But why I'm saying that is because, and lawyers can check and they can verify, I myself had read the treaty that set up the RSS. And I'm pretty sure prime ministers like Mia Motley, who are lawyers in themselves, and some of the other prime ministers, they should be aware of the treaty. They shouldn't act in contravention of the treaty. And I could be wrong, but from what I read and what I know one lawyer had said, if you were going to call the RSS to Dominica, there would have had to be a state of emergency. And that was never called. So did these prime ministers knew what they were doing? Were some of these prime ministers connected with Roosevelt Skerry, the same set of prime ministers who allowed him and his propaganda to not even allow a hearing from UWP, are these some of the same prime ministers now? Okay. Or were they some of the same prime ministers who knew fully well that they were going to be sending the RSS illegally into Dominica? And I could be wrong, but people can go check it out, right? So it just underscores the point that we are on our own to a large measure. We hope they can understand. But I'm not saying that just to say we're on our own. It's to give us hope and determination, because we've got to do it. And I said, a week after next, I'll be back in strong.
True.
But all of us, we have to get that boldness. I'm glad people are already getting boldness. And we're going to encourage people to be even more bold. But we have to come out. We have to ensure that this government does the right thing. And if they won't do the right thing, then we have to ask God for his strength to do what it takes.
Yeah. All right, Kent, I want to sort of offshoot now from exactly where you stop in terms of giving the people hope out there. And we on our own, as it were, but on our own, we should be strengthened, as it were. So the question now that has been resonating so far, I saw it popped up in the live feed, a number of times tonight. What is it that we are doing now in terms of the people, prepping the people so that the people can adequately and sufficiently respond, and if needs be, push back on those reforms of Roosevelt's carried? What is it that we are doing? What is it that we are, how is it that we are prepared to mobilize the people in that department? Is there moves to go on the ground? Is there moves to have discussions in the different constituencies, town hall meetings? How do we engage the people and say, hey guys, red alert, we have to be prepared. If that is done, that is what we do.
Well, I would start. Okay, sorry.
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah.
Yes, let me start, and then Thompson will go with the party-specific efforts that they are mounting. But the two sets of efforts have to meet and have to be coordinated. But from the ERC point of view, Bosso is not there, so I'm going to speak. He's the chairman of ERC. We are doing a number of things. Number one, we have started a series of radio programs, and people say talk is not enough. Yes, but we have to talk. We have to explain, and we have been using that Saturday night program on Q95 to explain and to talk. And
Kent, one thing I want to say here, just yes. I wanted to stick up in right there. I said it in a private circle already, and I think it did not resonate, it did not reach home. So I want to use this public forum now to expound on it. This radio program that you speak of, it's a great initiative, as I said.
No, but I wasn't finished. It's just one of the initiatives.
Hold on. I know. That radio program, Kent, it is a great initiative. What I said, and I believe that could put much more vibe, it could really drive home the point that radio program intend to do. It is to, when that radio program is on, have a group of people in the constituencies, in the villages, under the mango tree, in the bars, whatever it is, relaying that message on the radio in real time to the people or with the people on the ground.
Agreed.
And so it would not just be another radio program, it would be a radio program that would be activated on the ground.
Yes. Right. Very good suggestion. That suggestion was considered, and there's no, everybody thought it was a good suggestion. We just have to put the organization together to make it happen. So that suggestion is already accepted. So certainly, so that's one of them. So in addition to this, there is an important meeting coming up with the civil society business sector. I think it's supposed to be this week. Bosso is back and he can jump in anytime. But that's an important meeting where we have to reach out to the Council of Churches, the Evangelical Association, the various business organizations, the unions, everyone, so that we can have a discussion about what we need to do and what we should be doing, how we as a people should face this and prevent this. So that conversation is going to happen. I believe this week. Bosso can correct me. He would be more on top of it than I am. And then there is the rally. We are calling everybody to a National Assembly. ERC is organizing a rally where we say everybody, on the heels of the very successful rally, National Assembly that was held a month or so ago, or two ago. This is another one. That's important because it sends a very, 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 very loud message. It begins to motivate people. It begins to express event for expressing solidarity in numbers and in presence. So we're organizing this. Well, we have boss already explained that we sent out the dossier and we copied it to the prime minister and so on. So all of these things we are doing, we recognize there is a need to go on the ground and have those meetings. And your suggestion about multiplying the radio program is a very good one, and we should really work on that. It already came up, you already mentioned it, and it came up out of our meeting. We just now have to put it into effect. I think that's an excellent suggestion. But we also need those ground, and I know Thompson last week was on the ground, and I guess he will speak for himself and speak for what the parties do. But we need political parties as well to do some of that on the ground interaction. But the idea is, and then as we go along, there are certain instructions we will give to people. There are certain things that will evolve. We cannot anticipate everything at the moment because we still have to be, in a sense, motivating people and in a sense, waiting for some of the things that we are doing to bear fruits. So as we go along, we'll be doing more. But rest assured, we are ready to encourage the people and to motivate the people after we have done everything that we could have done to bring sense. We're ready to work with the people to say this is our country. We have to ensure that what is right is done.
Yeah, good. All right, guys, I have something to share with us in just a while. Read the electors list, but let us hear from Bosso and also from Dr. Thompson Fontaine, and then I'll share that thing coming out of Guyana.
Thank you, and my apology. I was on my computer and didn't realize it was not connected, so my battery died out. So I had to come back in. Okay. In terms of what we're doing, and I heard Ken mention a few of it, we have decided on Tuesday, this is Tuesday coming, to invite the private sector and other civil society groups to a meeting, online meeting with the ERC. That is this coming Tuesday, 6:30 p.m. And we're asking everybody to come out and to be part of the discussion and to have their suggestion made as well. And we're planning to have a gathering in town on the 7th of July. That's a Sunday. The radio program came about to give us an opportunity to continue the sensitization program, the education program on the issue, to raise the issues, and to tell people exactly what is not correct in the draft legislation, and what we are, and at the same time, we are putting the correct things in there so that we can have what we call a people's legislation on electoral reform. We've engaged a couple lawyers to assist us and so on. But bear in mind too, the electoral reform coalitions, a few of us, we do not have the kind of resources available to us to do the work that has to be done, because a lot of work to be done, to go to the community, to organize the people and so forth. You have to also be in contact with persons there. We have asked persons on the ground who are organized and willing to assist us. We had a very good meeting with the UWP, I think last week, Thursday it was? No, it was last week, Tuesday, so we had a very good meeting there. And we also asked for assistance in terms of the organization on the ground who can assist us to get people who may want to be part of the radio program or call and make exactly the point that you have spoken about, Lofty, but I think it's a good suggestion that you have made there. But the idea is to do as much as we can to be able to engage people and educate them on the legislation that is, and some of the things that Sir Byron recommended and what is not in the government legislation, draft legislation, and so on. So that people themselves, and we're encouraging people to, you too should be reading the draft legislation and come to your own conclusion as well, because it's not something we are pouring down your throat. It is a discussion that we want to have as mature people, as Dominican, and we want to appeal to the young people. And Thompson made the point earlier on. I remember as a boy growing up, I mean, young people got excited in getting involved in things like this, to have a say in the discussion and to raise points and things. And those days, you get the impression that young people, they're not too, not of them, but some of them are not too interested in that. And we want to say to you that what we are fighting is not because we want to be involved and things and we want to be on radio, but because we want to ensure that our country is better off for our future.
Yeah. You made a point here, Doc, just what's 1 minute, let me just inject a point here. Bosso made a point that I took note of about the scarcity of resources to pull off those meetings in the different villages and / constituencies. Also, I'm talking from experience as the past president of the Concerned Citizen Movement. We have had a number of successful meetings like this. And a strategy was then. We went into one village/constituency, and that village/constituency would help raise the resources for the next meeting. So waiting on a quote unquote a papa to give us resources to go in the communities, no. If we so infuse the people and let them realize that, and acknowledge that, Dominica belongs to you, you have to help save this country. Let these people push their hands in their pockets, small as it is. Every dollar counts. And so I'm just giving that suggestion out there because, we waiting, being tardy, and trying to get resources to go out there. Sometimes we may never meet that goal. We have to take the bull by the horn, go in a constituency, especially a constituency that is sympathetic to the cause, raise the necessary resources there, or a good chunk of it, and move on to the other constituency, make that appeal, and the cycle continues. Just my thought in moving forward. Resources.
Well, I think it's a continuous effort, and therefore all of these good suggestions will be taken on board as to ways and means that we could raise support, both in terms of human support and financial support. But as I said, one of the difficulties you have is we came together as the ERC during the campaign of the sham election, and we've decided to put our focus now on reform, the need for good reform in Dominica. And therefore, a few of us, we're doing our very best to keep it going, but I can tell you it's very strenuous. And to move around, it costs as well. But the point you make is a good point. I think we will take that on board and so forth, and we'll see how best we can put that into practice to raise some help. But we're also asking persons. We had a radio phone last night, and we asked persons to assist because they had assisted us when we brought Anil here, and we appreciate that. And also when we went to Granby, we get some assistance from persons locally and overseas. And we're hoping that for this struggle to continue and to be maintained on a continuous basis, we have to get the resources, support based on the resources that people can contribute.
Yes. Doc, just before you come in, thank you, boss. So in the interest of time, let us take one caller here. Caller, yes, good evening. You are on the program. You're live.
Yes, good evening, Lofty.
Good evening, sir.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we're hearing you loud and clear. Go right ahead. Make your point succinct.
Lofty.
I am hearing you, sir. Go right ahead.
I want to say good evening to Dr. Thompson Fontaine and Mr. Ken Vital, and also Bosso. I watching you live.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah, you know what?
Thank you. Good night. Good night.
But I was trying to make a vital point when I called. And Bosso always say, make it nice and spicy. Short and spicy, you don't think. Don't you remember the last time the Prime Minister go around telling people you had put an injunction, Lord, on electoral reform?
Yes, I remember. That was a blatant lie, but I remember, yes.
Games playing because he knows. Prime Minister, if he know my voice, you know me. He knows that a lot.
Caller, I don't know what is happening, but your line is really messing up. It is cracking up. We are not hearing you properly. So thank you for your call. Please try calling us back, but that line is cracking up. So we have to go in the interest of time. But thank you. Thank you for your voice being aired here. Yes, Doc. Thank you very much.
Yes, let me just make two quick points there. Number one, the United Workers' Party is an integral part of the Electoral Reform Coalition. In other words, we collaborate with various other political parties and civic groups and so on, because we believe that there is strength in unity. We believe that with such a critical issue of national importance is not just a political party thing. So our work and our interest is within the Electoral Reform Coalition, working collaboratively to push forward the agenda of reform. But in addition to that, as a party, we also have a responsibility to our constituents. And so We understand. Let me just assure the people of Dominica and those who are looking online and those who are with us tonight that we firmly and fully believe in the need to be on the ground in the constituencies. Okay, so people should not be under the illusion that somehow we don't believe that. Yes, I personally, as a leader of the United Workers' Party, firmly believe that the number one place to be is to be on the ground in the constituencies, educating, mobilizing, encouraging our people. And I say that because in the past few weeks that we were doing this, it occurred to me the number of persons who they listen to the radio, but they're not necessarily tuned in. So when you begin to have a conversation with them, you realize a lot of things that they're not even aware of. A lot of things that you assume that because they listen to the radio, they should know. They're not aware of it. And so there is a need to have this education, this sitting down with, whether it's through public meetings, town halls, and so on. That is critically important. But also made the point, there is the issue of resources. You need the transportation, you need the public address systems, you need some resources to be able to get that going, and you gave a very good suggestion on how that can be done. But at the end of the day, resources are needed, and that is where those who are encouraging us to be on the ground, we will do it, but people can also help. You can contribute your resources, but you can also call and say, yeah, we want to be with you when you go into this constituency. We want to make up the numbers. We want to help you spread the message. You know, very often I find our people say, why don't you do this? Why don't you as a party do this? And not realizing that it's about all of us. It's not so much you know, it's about us. How can I as an individual, do I have some spare time? Can I work with a few individuals and go to a particular village and help spread the message? You know, it's time we take on that responsibility collectively, love. It's not so much you as a party. You do it. No, it's not me. You. Let us do it together. Yeah. And I believe that the more we reach out in the villages, the more we reach out to the people, is the more they respond positively. People keep telling us, be sure to come back, you know, don't wait too long. We want you to be back. We want to hear you, you know, just be with us on the ground, you know. So we get it, we understand it, and we're doing as much as we possibly can, but we also need some of the support of others to be able to get this message across and to do it in a way that we can mobilize our people. So that when we have activities like what Kent mentioned, people will come out in their numbers.
Yes, thank you, Doc. We have another caller on the line. Caller, yes, good evening.
Good evening to you, Lofty, and to the gentlemen on the panel, and to the listeners. Yeah. Lofty, there's something that I've raised with others before, but I have not heard any real response in terms of the opinion of those who are able to organize it. I want to raise it tonight with the gentleman on here, and that is, I believe that it is we're now at a point that is so critical that we need to involve the region. And so I want the opinion of those on here as to how they would feel about them as different groupings getting together, just as they did with the economic symposium, and organizing such a meeting via Zoom, or otherwise with the participation of parliamentarians, opposition, and whoever else on a regional level and even an international level, persons who are parliamentarians within the Commonwealth and within other organizations, so as to have them contribute to the discussion with regard to the undemocratic proposed legislation that is coming out of this government before they actually use their majority in parliament to push it through. I believe that it's time for us to make this thing regional and international, and I think we should utilize the technology available to us to do so.
All right,
just want the opinions on that. Thank you, brother.
Thank you very much indeed. Yes, panelists said want to respond to this caller because we are running out of time and there's something else I want to share. Yes. Thank you, caller.
Yeah, I will thank the caller for his question and his comments and suggestion. And I will say earlier on, I did mention that we've written to heads of state and heads of government in the region, and also regional international organization, regional international media organization, as well as local media organization, and so forth. So I get his point there, but apart from the work that the ERC is doing, and since we have a collective of us in the ERC, each group in the ERC still has the responsibility to do their own individual work, and we can bring that together collectively. So say, for example, a group, a party can organize what Bernard just mentioned there, and you can also invite the ERC, because the ERC is, to be honest with you, just a handful of us who have the interest.
Bosso, let me just stick up in right there.
Yeah.
Let me just send out a note there to one called TC Gordon on the live. Let me just alert TC Gordon that the programs that are being aired on Civic Vibes is a high caliber quality program. And so we expect to have different views, but degrading or bringing down anybody on this program will certainly not, I repeat, not be tolerated. And so that is your first and last in terms of your actions, or else I will have no other choice but to omit you from the conversations moving forward. All right, thank you very much. Also, thank you, continue.
Yes, I agree with you. I mean, we can have discussion. We can agree to disagree without trying to bring down people or to, savage people for their views and so on. I think we, at any given time, will have different views, but we have a right to have exchange, to discuss. And that's how people learn. I learn from you and you learn from me and so on. So I agree with you that when we have this discussion, it must be about not the individual, about the situation and how we can collectively solve it in the interest of all of us. Because you may be one thing today, and it might be something else tomorrow in terms of your political partisan support or interest and so forth. So I was making the point that all the groups in the ERC still have their own individual responsibility to organize themselves and to have audiences with people. And we can bring all of this work together collectively and widen it as much as possible. But bear in mind, before, I mean, I've been in politics for a long time, and people made the sacrifices to get involved in things and to defend their country. But since this party became government and people feel that everything must be free, it created a problem when it comes to moving persons. I mean, there are those, what you call the loyals, with real loyalty to the state and the situation, who will probably even walk to get there. But there are those who tell you to move, you have to assist me to get there. And this is why we always ask for the assistance or the help to do those things. So you made some good point, Lofty. I take it on. Bernard just made some good point there. We take it on as well.
Yeah.
But we're also asking persons to assist us as much as they can. We're not asking you for a whole lot. If it's $20, $10, you can contribute.
Whatever assistance.
Whatever it is, we'll take it.
All
of the quickly there, if, say, for example, a person can say, you know something, I can sponsor a bus in my village. I can sponsor 2 buses in my village. Go ahead and do that.
All right. So you're seeking sponsorship. Thank you very much, Bosso. Guys, the final question from me tonight, you guys, in the interest of time, it's already 5 minutes to 8 o'clock, the wind down time. What are the minimum requirements in terms of these reforms we're pushing in you guys' mind that can cut it so that we, the people, can be satisfied in going into any other election? The minimum. We have the list, we have the cards, we have
minimum.
Yes, minimum.
Minimum for me is a clean voters list. Clean voters list in the sense that we have a bloated 74,380 plus persons on that list. We need to cut it down to about 42,000. So that's number one. Number two, the issuing of voter ID cards so that persons can in fact vote. And number three, access to the radio stations, equal access by the parties. That to me is the bare minimum of electoral reform.
Yeah.
Any further thoughts? Yes, thank you, Doc. Thank you.
Yes, well, I would say, well, the ID cards are very, very, very important. And the government is in their proposal allowing ID card, but it doesn't go far enough. And the ID cards are very, very important in order to prevent impersonation. That's part of the way they have won. People voting multiple times, either on their own names if they are registered more than once, or impersonation of other persons. That's a major strategy the party has used. The ID cards will help that. But what they have done is putting that provision for voter ID cards to be used, but they have only specified a picture and other security features.
All right, Kent, yes, Kent, in the interest of time, I was just asking you for your minimum. So
that's
the cards,
and then the other important one is the confirmation must be done properly.
Okay,
it must, people who are confirmed must be those who are currently resident in Dominica, and there must be proof of address for that. If these two things are done, now some people talk about campaign finance reform, but if you already
so what about a re-registration versus the confirmation process?
Well, I have looked at that, and I'm saying if while most of us would prefer a re-registration because it'd be totally cleaner, but if you do a confirmation right, if you Google what a confirmation ought to do, you're supposed to confirm that the information is still correct, and if it's not correct, you should not be confirmed with that information. And if anything, you should re-register.
Okay, cool.
So okay, so it can accomplish this, what we want, if it's done well. And as it is proposed, it is not proposed well. It is simply trying to confirm those who are already on the list. That's no good.
All right, cool. All right, Bosso, thank you very much, Kent. Your minimum requirements.
The voters list is one, to ensure that clean voters list. And Tom's made the point that you have a population, say, of 70,000, we say, or below that. And we have the voters list showing more people on it than you have a population. So even you as a politician cannot strategize properly, contest an election because you don't know where the people are, and so on. That's very important. I think campaign finance reform is important. It's very important because you cannot have one party or the incumbent party using the resources of state or whatever else they can get it, and taking control of everything. Because what may happen to you is that the other parties may have to themselves take dirty money to compete, and we don't want that. So campaign finance reform is key. I think residency, it was mentioned a while ago, is also a key area I think we have to look at. And our forefather had this 5-year thing there, and it was removed. So if the things are done properly in terms of the 5 years thing, it's done properly, and the confirmation is done properly, I think we may have some of the things we may have to forget. But for now, the way it is looking for still keep the loophole that can be exploited.
All right, thank you, guys. It is a couple seconds to the hour of 8 o'clock. I know there's much more that can be said, but we'll have to leave the rest for another conversation, another program. Let me just go around the table now for you guys' final or parting comments as we close. Brother Kent.
Well, let me just, in my final comment, just throw back to Bernard's comment who called, and just to agree with the general notion that we definitely have to take the issue to the region. So we're here, she already started the process by copying to the prime ministers and to other organizations. I think we also need to take the information and the discussion to the people of the region. I think that's the next big thing that I myself am willing to contribute to that part in a big way. But we've got to do that. The people of the region need to know what we are fighting against, so that they will not be under the wrong impression whenever the people step up and decide that no more injustice, enough is enough.
Yes, indeed. Thank you. Thank you very much, Kent. Very succinct indeed. Bosso?
Yes, thank you so much, Lofty. I appreciate your invitation to be here, and I want to say thank you again to Thompson and Kent being here with us, and your listeners, those who calls and ask questions. I want to thank you and say what we are involved in, what we are talking about, what we are fighting for is for the country, and we would like Dominicans at home and abroad to understand that we are not a country without laws. And Thompson made the point earlier on, unless we as a people decide to stand up for ourselves, we will not get help from anywhere. People must see us willing as a country to stand up for the good things, and then they will come and give us the support necessary to seal the whole deal. So again, thank you. God bless, and have a nice week.
All right, very much indeed. Thank you very much, Bosso. Time well spent here. Dr. Fontaine, your final comments as we leave?
Yes, Lofty is to say thanks to you and Civic Vibes for the opportunity, and of course to Kent and to Bosso, and also to just encourage the Dominican public. Let's not lose hope. You know, I believe, having spent several weeks talking to the Dominican public across several communities recently, I'm convinced that the people of Dominica want change. I'm convinced that the people of Dominica are fed up of this government, and we need to continue to work hard towards electoral reform. It's obvious it will not be given to us on a platter, but we need to continue to push for it. We need to continue to insist on it, because we believe that electoral reform will set the basis for democracy, that will allow us to choose our leaders that will really work in the best interests of the Dominican public. I am grateful that we could be able to offer an alternative to the Dominican public, an alternative that shows that we care about the people, that shows that we will do everything possible to improve the lives of the people, and above all, that we will work very hard to ensure better Dominica for all. And so I want to really thank all of Dominica. I want to thank those who are listening tonight. I want to thank all those who made comments and who reached out during the course of the evening. Thank you for taking time out of the Sunday night to listen to us and to be a part of this program. And let me just say, personally, I'm very excited about what the future holds for Dominica, what the future holds for change, what the future holds for better, more vibrant Dominica. And I'm very happy to be part of this struggle, to be part of this process for change in Dominica. God bless all of you, and good night.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Thompson Fontaine and Mr. Johnson Buston and Brother Kent Vital. Thank you, guys. Thank you indeed.
Thank you, Lofty.
My heart is heavy, my soul not free. I feel this every day.
Brother Denison Dice, 10 times Calypso King in Dominica, sings this one, Back to Country, True Confession.
This way, where people are standing on political mischief and division, and politicians control.
As we close, Dominicans have been told about an event on the 7th of July that is coming up next month. That is dubbed the People's Parliament.
Dominica, my true confession.
Where, yes, the people of Dominica will be proposing what we want for electoral reform for Dominica.
For my allegiance was to someone else.
That comes up on the 7th of July, dubbed the People's Parliament.
Many in numbers, the patriots of few. So it's no wonder we are where we are. We did not stand with you. Whoa. Now we are resting poverty. Roots of our misplaced loyalty. Now we must turn back to country, each and everybody, beginning with you.
Yes, beginning with me, we must return back to country. Dominicans, that is it. That is it for the Civic Vibes program for yet another Sunday, 23rd day of June 2024. Our guests tonight, our esteemed guests tonight, were Dr. Thompson Fontaine, Mr. Kent Vital, and Mr. Johnson Buston. Thank you, each and every one of you in the listening and viewing audience at this time.
As he who will not see.
Your company is always, always appreciated.
Is the road to power.
We did not see our dear brother tonight, Alvin Thomas, but he's out there somewhere doing something, but he's listening nonetheless. Alvin, good evening to you, my bro.
Enjoying success.
And the Civic Vibes crew putting this thing together each and every Sunday. Thank you very much, guys. Job well done.
Our hearts, our minds to our country.
So Dominica, till next week, till we meet same time, same place. That is yours truly, Loftus Dira. I'm signing out. Bye-bye. I love you.
Didn't do. I want to suffer, for my allegiance was to someone else, not you. All your exploiters, many are strangers, the patriots of you. So
So it's no wonder we are where we are. We did not stand with you. Whoa. Now we live with hostility. Fruits of our misplaced loyalty. Now we must head back to country first, immediately, beginning with me.